Yep.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Any more questions about that particular integration?
Yep. I do have another one too.
Yeah, go
So
for
we
it.
said that, thank you. So we said that the vendor has been tagged to the employee. So there has to be there is an integration between Bamboo HR and NetSuite, wherein when an employee gets created in Bamboo HR, a corresponding vendor has been assigned to that employee in NetSuite.
Yep.
It's an event-driven architecture integration, right?
So that's all done with Workato, and yeah, it's just the event that triggers from Bamboo HR, which will run the recipe in Workato, and then we just do it all sort of real time at that point. We don't have any queuing or anything for that. So.
Okay. And in here, there is no concept of manager, right? It's all vendor and employee.
I'm not sure. Do you have the answer to that?
Sorry, what was the question? I was answering a question related to this integration.
Is there a concept of a manager in NetSuite, or is it just a vendor record for the employee?
There's not, no. So it's just the employee record, and it's just the email, their name, and the department, and then the currencies that we reimburse them, and subsidiary, but no manager concept.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay. Yeah, that
yeah, only in Expensify is there the manager for the approver.
So right now, what issue we were having, wherein I was not getting Christopher to approve my policies, was because Chris was not assigned to that policy wherein I was being assigned, right? That was the issue, which should have happened.
Yes, I think there are two separate issues. One was just the integration was off, so that's why you weren't added. And then we turned it on, and then there's a separate issue with the managers. There was some like logic or something that was switched so that it wasn't adding the managers, but that has since been fixed. But yes.
Okay, because I see people reporting in Slack today that they face the same issue.
Yes, so there are
yesterday.
Backfill, like we have to rerun the jobs that did not add the managers. So that's what I was just pinging somebody. I have to check which ones we need to rerun, but I just did it for one employee whose manager was not in their policy, and it added their manager. So the recipe is now is working as expected.
Yeah, this was also
Sorry, please.
This was the first integration we did, so it was a bit of a learning exercise as well for us, just on how to build things with Workato. So I think that we will revisit this and make it a bit more robust in the future. It's just at the moment we're kind of just fixing things as we find them. So wouldn't say that this is a good pattern for doing it and doing things in the future, but it's, you know, it was a learning opportunity. So.
Okay.
And to be fair, the Expensify is it has limitations, and it's very complicated to make it work. There's so much logic that had to be built in, and like some assumptions and stuff. So it is definitely that we just monitor it and keep having to make tweaks to keep it going, but it's a lot better than it was.
One more question. Sorry, I'm asking too much of questions. I just
that's okay.
I just want to confirm that if this issue happens again, then what are the steps that is to be taken to rectify it? So in case it happens again, we switch on the integration, we make it up and running. But what about the employees which were earlier facing this issue? So the backlog of these employees which were not being integrated through that trigger for integration being off, we have to do that manually. They are not being taken care automatically if the integration is up again, right?
So I mean, if the integration has been stopped, the triggers, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jagan or Viswa, but I think the triggers are still coming in. So when you start it again, you'll have like a big backlog of triggers that you have to process. Is that correct?
That is correct. They can.
No,
No.
so it maintains a since time. So when we stop, the since time will be like current time when it got last pulled, and when we start again, so we maintain a since time, and if we start after 1 hour or 2 hours, the records will be fetched only from last 1 hour or 2 hours,
Right.
not be from start or something. So we maintain a since time, since when.
Okay. So if you stop, but it's the same effect, right? Like if you stop the recipe, that's fine, because when you start it again, you're not going to miss any records. You're just going to have a bunch of records that haven't been processed since you stopped it, and then you have to process them at that point.
Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah. But there is a situation where if a trigger was processed but it failed because of an error, you would have to go and rerun that job. Right.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Okay, got it.
for the specific use case, they were successful. It ran the rest, like the jobs as expected. So there was no way to identify that it was doing this until we were notified.
And it is so my understanding is that the integration is idempotent. So we could potentially also create like a temporary recipe that just gets the current entire list of employees, and then we could trigger this. Actually, we have it as a callable recipe now, right, Viswa? So
Or if possible, we can take a timestamp of the last run of the job and use that timestamp as a reference, like in the since.
well, it does that. It kind of does that out of the box, I guess. So we don't have to manually.
I will say that we are also going to be getting rid of Expensify probably in the next few months. And so we are trying to not invest a lot of time into trying to make this specific integration any better for a lot of reasons. So yeah, hopefully it won't be an issue for long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's okay, I think we should leave that one, because otherwise we'll be here forever. But if you have other questions, like shoot them to me or Alex afterwards, and we'll we can continue going over the details for that. So
Okay.
cool. So let's go over some of the smaller integrations that are built. So Bamboo HR and Navex Global. So Navex Global is a training platform. Basically, we sort of like use them for our GDPR and other privacy, or like we did like anti-bribery training and stuff like that through Navex Global. So the way that integration works is it's literally just they, from their point of view, they just give us an FTP server and they just expect us to drop a CSV file containing all of our employees in there, all of our active employees, right? And it contains like 6 or 7 fields. So like things like first name, last name, email address. I think it also contains like their department and their job title, I think, or something like that. And they use some of that information to determine which group people should go into. Actually, I think we send the group. So yeah. So the way it works is that they have 2 groups. They have staff, and then I think they have supervisors. So, supervisors might get additional training that the staff don't, because they are managers and they have certain other things that they need to know about. So we basically just tell them whether someone is a supervisor or not, put them into the right group, and then if someone doesn't exist in that list, they'll be deactivated from Navex Global. So that list should always have the current active employees of GitLab, or current active team members, I should say.
Okay.
So the integration is pretty simple as well. So it just runs daily, and it just gets a list of all the employees from Bamboo HR. And then it generates this CSV file. it uploads it to Google Drive for reference, and then it also uploads it to the FTP server. I think it happens before 12 p.m. Pacific time, and then Navex Global pick up the file at 12 p.m. every day on their side. Nothing else really about that. It's a very simple integration. So that's that one. Any questions?
Yep. One. So I have, it's that in CSV file, we send them all the active employees and their managers. And based upon these employee details, Navex Global divide them into groups of supervisor and staff, and then they decide their training accordingly.
Yeah, I misspoke at the start. We do the grouping. So we work out whether they need to be in the staff group or whether they should be in the supervisor group. So we just work out, there's just some logic in there that just says like, is this person a manager of anybody? If they are, then they're a supervisor. If they're not a manager of anybody, then they're just a staff member. So, and then we just send in the CSV file, we just say group is staff or group is supervisors.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we take that logic in Workato, and then we update the CSV file with the group and supervisor.
Yeah.
Group. Okay.
And then on the Navex Global side, they'll just be assigned to whichever group we say they should be in.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Okay. That's
Cool.
it. Cool.
And then the other very simple one is Bamboo HR to Edcast. That one, I'm trying to remember now whether it uses the updated trigger. I think it does. So we did an initial batch upload. So we created a callable recipe, which basically takes one employee's information, and then just the way that it does the push to Edcast is it just uses their REST API. So they have create user and update user. So we just search for the user first. If they already exist, we update them. If they don't exist, we create them. We send a whole bunch of information with this one. So we send things like, what's their job title? What's their role? What region are they in? What country are they in? There's just a whole bunch of fields that we send. And then the grouping, they're put into groups on the Edcast side, but that's done by Edcast. So they have a bunch of workflows in their system, and they'll use all the fields we send to work out which groups people should go into. So yeah, we did a batch upload to start with, but after that, it just uses the create or updated employee trigger from Bamboo HR. So it'll happen it just runs all the time. There's no batching. It just, whenever an employee is updated in Bamboo HR, it will be like a real-time event, and it'll update it in Edcast via the API.
Sorry, can you come again? What Edcast does?
Oh, Edcast is another training platform. Sorry. So it's called a learning experience platform, I think, LXP. And that's primarily used by the learning and development team, L&D team. And what they do is they record and upload like training material for like enterprise clients and things like that. And then they'll share that information or share those videos with either staff at GitLab or customers of GitLab. And it's just like a kind of like a YouTube like platform, but specifically to our content. So that's how that works.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, then let's do. Well, okay. So the last one, this one hasn't been developed yet. This is one that you're going to be developing, or we're going to be developing. With Exactly. So Exactly is used for commissions, right, Alex? Yeah. So that's how they pay the salespeople commissions. So we'll be basically tasked with creating an integration between Bamboo HR and Exactly, which just pushes the salespeople over. And it'll probably be similar to the Edcast one, like it'll just keep them updated as their details change. That hasn't been built yet, but it'll be done with Workato most likely, unless there's an integration between Bamboo HR and Exactly. I have no idea. We'll have to look into that. Cool. So all of these boxes, by the way, are like who owns it. So the people team owns Bamboo HR, the legal team owns Navex, sales ops owns Exactly, sales systems owns Salesforce, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're ever trying to work out who to talk to about these things, that's where you need to go. Oh, so we forgot this one as well. So I don't really know about this, but apparently there's a native integration between Expensify and NetSuite. Is that correct? Alex, do you know how that works? Is that just sending the expenses once they're approved, it sends them to NetSuite?
Exactly. Yep. So it sends expense reports as journal entries to NetSuite assigned to the vendor records. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. And do we have any monitoring of that, or is that just kind of like a thing that exists and we just trust that it works type thing?
I think I get emails. The finance team monitors it, and they have a process during close to make sure that everything has synced. But that's the extent of it.
Great. Cool. All right. NetSuite to Adaptive. Do you know how that integration works?
Yep. So Adaptive Insights is the like financial planning forecasting tool that the FP&A team uses, and it's integrated with NetSuite via their native connector, Adaptive Insights native connector, and I won't know the technical terms, but I believe it is pulls from the database all of the different objects and from NetSuite, and those are all available within Adaptive for them to add to their reports, and they can like slice and dice and everything. So it has all the data from NetSuite available, but they don't necessarily use it all. And that runs, I think hourly or daily, one of the two. And monitoring is done by the FP&A team, and they are pretty self-sufficient. So they have their whole process in place when things fail or don't sync and how to troubleshoot.
All right.
Okay.
And it's a one-way sync, just NetSuite to Adaptive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel, just a quick clarification.
Sorry, please go ahead. Uma.
Go ahead, Pranav. Yeah. I just wanted to understand the classification of native integration. Does it mean that native to adaptive planning or NetSuite? Which one has the integration built in?
For this one specifically, it's Adaptive's native NetSuite integration. So Adaptive.
From
So it's
adaptive
a pull based.
Okay.
It's a pull based thing. So Adaptive, yeah, own that, and then pull the data. Cool.
When Expensify to NetSuite, is it from Expensify perspective, or how is that native? NetSuite has.
From Expensify's perspective, yes.
Cool. Great. Let's do Zorro stuff. Let's go through the whole buying process and everything that way. I think that one's pretty interesting. So cool. So this side here is our product team. So the people who build GitLab.com and the self-managed GitLab, they own obviously GitLab.com, and then they also own customers. Which is customers.gitlab.com, I think. And then also another website, I think it's license.gitlab.com. So when a customer wants to buy GitLab, they will, probably press on a trial button or purchase button or something within gitlab.com, and that will take them to customers.gitlab.com, where they will probably either create their own user there, or they'll use there's an SSO OAuth integration with gitlab.com. So they can use that to log into customers. This is owned by a team called Fulfillment. So their main concern is around, giving people access to the product after they've paid for it and all that kind of stuff, as well as, providing them their licenses if they have a self-managed instance of GitLab. So they own those two systems. Any question on that part?
Who's taking care of this integration? That's fulfillment team?
Yeah, that's the product team. These are all like code-based integrations. They're all written in Ruby. They're all custom apps. There's no off-the-shelf software there.
Okay, and fulfillment team takes care of its maintenance too, is it?
Yeah, they're a really big engineering team. They have front-end engineers, they have QA, they have back-end, front, all sorts of engineers. Integration. They have their own integration engineering people. So, yeah, it's quite a large team. Yeah. So then they interface with systems that we own. So we own Zoro Billing, we own Zoro Revenue, we own Sales. Well, we don't own Salesforce, but we own the integration with Salesforce. So when a customer wants to buy GitLab, buy a license to GitLab, there's an embedded Zoro Billing form on the website. So that will allow them to put in their credit card details and other payment details and then pay. So when they've done that, we basically create a subscription for them in Zoro Billing for the plan that they've, elected to go with. It also doesn't have to be subscriptions. It can also be like one-off purchases. So they can buy like CI minutes. They can buy storage on GitLab. And they're like one-off purchases that also go through Zoro Billing. So the person will have an account, or the billing person will have an account on Zoro Billing. So all the subscriptions and purchases and stuff will be attached to that person's account. The actual payment gateway is actually Stripe. I haven't put that on here, but Zoro Billing has a native integration with Stripe. And then Stripe processes all the credit card payment and all that kind of stuff. Any question on that part, on that direction?
Okay, I have one.
Yep.
One second. Yes, so my question is that once it's like Zoro Billing, it takes care of all the billing information of a customer, right? Its account and its credit card details, everything.
Yeah, but then the actual payment processing is done by Stripe. So they'll pass on the information that's needed to Stripe in order to actually do the charge. So the charging is not done by Zoro. That's the only part that's not done by Zoro, but everything else is managed by Zoro.
So do we do any encryption of on the encryption of the data on integration?
Yeah, I mean, that's all because it's an embedded form. The actual form is hosted by Zoro. So it's all natively done by Zoro, and they'll use like HTTPS, and it's all PCI compliant and everything like that. So we don't actually have to manage that part of it. We don't have our own credit card forms that we build or anything like that. And then Zoro Billing will have its own like encryption at rest and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Okay, so it's all been handled by Zoro, all these integrations.
Yeah. Okay. Zoro is just like a one-stop shop for everything billing related and subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. Okay. And Alex and her team are the administrators of Zoro Billing and Zoro Revenue. Okay. Yeah. So if you ever have a question about that, go to Alex. So then there's also an integration. Oh, yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So then, like now, so the user account, right? You said like the users will have an account in Zoro Billing, but you said there is an embedded form, right, from the portal when the customer they buys GitLab. So does it mean there is an integration between like now the portal and Zoro Billing, in which the user account is also getting integrated, or we need to create a separate account in the Zoro Billing?
When you say portal, do you mean customers dot?
Sorry, the fulfillment. Yeah, basically, if someone wants like to buy GitLab, right? Like, for instance, storage.
Yeah, so
So-
their customers dot is like an interface to Zoro Billing. So like in customers dot, they can see all of their subscriptions, they can manage their billing contact details and all of that stuff. But when I think the way it works, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, you know, if they have a billing contact in customers dot and they change it, then that would change the account's billing contact details in Zoro Billing.
Okay, got it. Okay, so it's a kind of like the front end for Zoro Billing.
Yeah. At least that's the way I view it, but it could be wrong. Alex, am I wrong?
Sorry, I didn't follow the whole
Assume
question.
Zoro also takes care of
So
tax.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say customers dot is kind of like the front end to Zoro Billing. Like we surface all of their like subscriptions there. They can update their details, change their credit card information, all that kind of stuff is done there, but it should reflect in Zoro Billing once they've updated it. Should.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say yes, should. I don't know necessarily if they were to update their like billing address in customers dot, if it actually does something in Zoro. There's a lot of work to be done in between those two, but that's essentially what's happening.
Yeah.
Or
This
should
this
happen.
integration has gotten a lot of focus recently because there have been more and more situations where there's large discrepancies between what should be reflected on the customers dot side. So customers dot has its own database and it keeps like a denormalized copy of everything that it learns from Zoro Billing, but then it doesn't keep it synchronized necessarily. So then sometimes details might change in Zoro Billing and then they don't get reflected in customers dot or vice versa. So they're working really hard to fix those problems. And they have been for a couple of months now. So it's improving, I think.
Okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Mayor.
And so there is an integration in the other direction as well. So when customers dot talks to Zoro Billing, it does API calls against Zoro's API. But then the data might change in Zoro Billing from another source, right? Like Salesforce might change data in Zoro Billing. So then we need to reflect that information back in customers dot. So there is a call out mechanism. So customers dot has an endpoint, a call out endpoint, and then Zoro Billing will call that endpoint whenever, for example, a subscription changes. You know, the customer might have not paid for their subscription, so the subscription would be cancelled or it would end. And so we need to reflect that in customers dot. So there will be like a call out event back to customers dot saying that happened, and then customers dot should update its database based on that information. Any questions about that? No.
No.
Cool. All right. I'm going to rush through the next couple. So there's an integration between Salesforce and Zoro Billing. It's native. I don't really know what it does other than, what is it, like syncs opportunities or something, doesn't it? I don't really know what it does.
Yep. It syncs opportunities from Salesforce into subscriptions in Zora, and creates customer accounts in Zora. And then also syncs the product catalog and I don't think it does invoices and payments. I think that's something they want it to do. So yeah, opportunities and subscriptions, customer accounts, and then the product catalog.
Okay. And that's called Zoro 360, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And
then there's also another Zoro, isn't it? Z quotes. Zoro quotes is on the Salesforce side.
yes, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave that one there.
So we sync opportunities from Salesforce as customer accounts in Zorro, right?
Correct. Opportunities are subscriptions. Once it's closed won in Salesforce, then it'll sync to Zorro and create the subscriptions for it associated to the customer account. And then there's, you know, I might not know the Zorro Salesforce, but there's like a customer account, and then there's also that concept of billing account in Salesforce. And so like there's like basically a whole like sub objects for all the Zorro components.
Okay. So what information we sync from Zorro to Salesforce?
What information are we syncing from Zorro to Salesforce?
Yep. I see it's great.
Yeah, the product catalog comes from Zorro to Salesforce. I think there might be some others. I'd have to confirm, but I know for sure it's just the product catalog. But the rest, most of it is Salesforce to Zorro.
Okay, that's fine.
So that specifically is for like sales assisted sales, right? Like when something's closed won in Salesforce, that's because a salesperson has done a direct sale with a customer and they haven't gone through the web portal through the customer's website. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah, because there's also, I think you talked about it, but yeah, from customer dot to Zorro as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's two-way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, sales assistant comes from Salesforce.
Yeah, and so for everyone that doesn't know, we sell like two different types of products. So we sell the SaaS version of GitLab, which is gitlab.com. You can buy a subscription for your group on gitlab.com. Or if you want to self-host GitLab, you can also buy that, and that's called self-managed, and that has different plans and pricing. But you have to run that version of GitLab on your own servers. So they're the two different ways that people can buy GitLab. And then in both of those scenarios, you can either buy it through the customer's website, or you can buy it through a salesperson, interaction. So like a sales direct. So there's basically like 4 different ways that we handle, or 4 different scenarios that we handle. Cool. And okay, so Zorro Revenue is a new system that we've got, and that one is to assist us with revenue recognition, and that's for SOX compliance, right, Alex?
Sorry, which
and
one?
606, right? Zorro Revenue is for SOX and 606.
Yeah, mostly 606 in order to be SOX compliant, but correct.
Yeah. So that's a new system.
Just went live yesterday. And then the integrations are coming next month.
Yep. So these are the 2 other big integrations that we've built in Workato. They're not yet deployed. So the Zoro Billing to NetSuite integration will come on January 4th. That's the target launch date for that. And then the Zoro Revenue to NetSuite integration will probably come a month after that. So what that basically does is in the Zoro Billing case, we take when they created a journal run in Zoro Billing, we take that journal run and the journal entries that come with it, and we create journal entries within NetSuite. So yeah, that process is reasonably straightforward. There is a queuing mechanism in the middle. We're using Google PubSub, so we add all the journal entries to the queue, and then they get dequeued and created in NetSuite. And then the Zoro Revenue one functions a little bit differently. So they create batches. So every month they'll create like a batch for the previous month's journal entries. And then we have to do some manual grouping of that. So we have some custom code that just takes that big list of entries and groups them by a few different fields. There's also queuing in this one, and then it'll also create the NetSuite journal entries. That one's still in development. So the Zoro Billing to NetSuite one is done. We're deploying it to prod at the moment, and the Zoro Revenue one is almost done. Just needs a few tweaks. Any questions about those ones?
Sure. I have one on Zoro Billing and NetSuite integration. So why we are doing it exactly? We have generals in this Zoro Billing is having the information of customer information, who all customers who are to whom GitLab has built the information, and NetSuite is using Tipati for payment, right?
So Tipalti is for payments going out.
Payment. Okay.
Zoro Billing is for would be us receiving payments from our customers. So money coming in. And so this integration so Zora is going to be our subledger for all of our billing activities, but then NetSuite is our general ledger. So it summarizes all of the activity that happened, all the billing activities that happened for the month, and then syncs that as journal entries to NetSuite so that the books in NetSuite are up to date.
Okay, just for matching the books in NetSuite.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. It's not doing transactional level. So we're not syncing customer accounts or the customer invoices or payments or anything. It's just summarizing them all to, I think, the product level or rate plan charge level, one of the two.
And I think you've told me before, but I think it's worth going over again. What's the difference between like journal entries that come from Zoro Billing versus journal entries that come from Zoro Revenue?
Yes. So Zoro Billing will record all of the transactions as deferred revenue and then because there's all these different accounting rules on how you recognize revenue. And it's really complicated, especially in a SaaS business. So basically, Zoro Billing has all of the transactions and just enters them as deferred revenue. And then we have Zoro Revenue, which has all of these logic and calculations built into the system to determine how much we should actually recognize of that deferred revenue each month. So one is the deferred or accounts receivable and deferred, and then the other is actually recognizing this as revenue based on rules.
Any more questions about that one?
Oh, it bounced off my head.
Yeah, it's okay. It bounces off my head as well. Well, the good thing is we have lots and lots of really smart people that know what's going on here. So we don't have to worry too much. We just have to build the integrations. So yeah. So then Zoro Billing, so Zoro Revenue used to be a different company's product called RevPro, and then Zoro bought it and called it Zoro Revenue. But there is a native integration between Zoro Billing and Zoro Revenue, so that will synchronize that revenue data across. That's correct, right?
Correct. And actually, I don't know what type of monitoring will be happening in between those two.
Okay.
But it would be good to know. I'll find out.
All right, we've got 9 minutes left, so I'm going to rush through the next bit. So, all right. Next big project that's kind of in our to-do list is this Marketo sync. So, Marketo is what we use for marketing emails to our customers, like marketing campaigns. But right now, we don't sync all of the free users from GitLab.com into Marketo. We only sync users who have actually paid for the product into Marketo, or if they're in Salesforce, we also sync them to Marketo. So there's a native integration between Salesforce and Marketo. So we bring in like all of the contacts as leads from Salesforce. So, that includes their email address and job titles and things like that. I think an important thing to know about this one is that there's no deduplication on this. So if an email address already exists in Marketo, and then a new person with the same email address is created in Salesforce, that will create a duplicate lead in Marketo. So we'll essentially have two people with the same email address with potentially differing other details. So we're going to try and fix that at some point. But the way that the trials, actually, I don't know if I've got it. I actually missed an integration here. So I've got it here. So customers sends trial users to Salesforce, and then Salesforce will sync those to Marketo. That's how we get our trial customer details from customers to Marketo. What we want to do is we want to go directly from customers to Marketo, because the Marketo API has got deduplication built in. So if we do it that way, then we won't get those potential duplicates that come from the Salesforce integration. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to get the free users from GitLab.com into Marketo. So, the proposal is that we build a real-time integration between these, but there'll also be a batch processing integration between, GitLab and Snowflake, which is our enterprise data warehouse. And then Snowflake will, take all the information it knows about a person, and it'll create like an enriched lead. And then that will be synchronized to Marketo as well, probably in batches, maybe daily or something like that. So that's another part of the current marketing database project that's ongoing. Snowflake also brings batch information in from lots of different systems, obviously. So from GitLab.com, they have there's only one line here, but they actually do a lot of different syncs here. They have a sort of real-time sync where they use Snowplow. So that's something that it's like a JavaScript SDK that runs in the browser. So when people interact with the software, it sends these events to Snowflake, probably to a raw table, and then they might use that raw data to create like a curated table. We also bring in information in batches from customers' database. I actually think that some of these integrations are like there's like a cron job, and they generate like a big flat file, and they just put it into like an S3 bucket or a GCP bucket, and then Snowflake will collect that information every like 6, 12, or 24 hours. And it'll get, transformed and put into the database. I don't know how the integrations work between Zoro Billing and Zoro Revenue. Well, Zoro Revenue one, I don't even know if that's built yet, but do you know anything about those? Are they just doing like API calls, Alex?
To Snowflake?
As in like to get the data from Zoro to Snowflake?
I have no idea.
Okay. I think I do know what it is. I think they're using the data querying API endpoint for Zoro, and they just call it like periodically. I think I saw that somewhere. Because Zoro Billing has an API endpoint where you can run like SQL queries against the underlying data. It's read only, so you can't do like drop tables or anything like that. You can just fetch data and join different tables. So I think they just run like those SQL queries against Zoro and then get the data into Snowflake that way. I don't know how they do the Salesforce one, but it'll probably be something similar. NetSuite, do you know anything about that one?
For Snowflake?
For Snowflake, yeah.
They use some other system thing to pull the data. I can't remember.
Fivetran?
I thought it was 5. I saw 5. It might be something else though.
Yeah, they have a couple of different like extraction tools, data extraction tools. So could be the other one. Yeah. And then, yeah, Snowflake probably gets data from even more locations that I don't know about, but they're the ones that I sort of thought were important. So any questions about that? No.
Good. No questions.
Cool. And then the last couple of integrations we have are ones that are coming up. So we have to build at some point an integration between adaptive planning and Allocadia. So Allocadia is like I don't know if you know anything about this, Alex, but my understanding is it's like a marketing campaign financial planning tool. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but it's like, they'll get like a budget from adaptive planning, which is the financial planning and forecasting software, and they'll be told like, you have this much money to spend on like marketing campaigns or something like that. I'm kind of making stuff up as I go here, but and then Allocadia, they can basically allocate that budget to different types of campaigns. Do you see how my brain works? I'm just like, Allocadia, allocate. Yeah.
Is that actually, that makes total sense now?
Yeah, I believe that's how it works. That's my understanding of it. And then they can also like, I think the way that it works then is that they can possibly like marry up their like how effective a marketing campaign was to the actual budget that they gave it, and that will help them understand like what the return on investment was for the budget that they used in Allocadia. So anyway, I don't think I meant to put another arrow here. There's also going to be an integration between Allocadia and GitLab, which we're going to build. Well, we're not building it. Allocadia is building it, but they're using Workato. Cool. Anyway, I think that's everything. Did I miss anything? Any questions?
Oh, I'm good. No questions.
Yeah.
Managed to fit it into an hour.
Very good. Yeah.